Greetings and welcome to the daily demonstration against the covert Russian war, against the terror, against the genocide in Ukraine. Today is 1222nd day since the beginning of the full-scale invasion of Ukraine. During 1222 days, Ukrainian Association in Norway is organizing daily demonstrations here near the Parliament of Norway, and some days, like today, near the embassy of Russian fascism in Norway. Our goal is to show a solidarity with the people of Ukraine, to condemn Russian invasion and war crimes, and to address people of Norway and Norwegian politicians, to call for more political, humanitarian, and military assistance to Ukraine. As always, we begin our demonstration with the national anthem of Ukraine. Доброго дня! Вітаю всіх на сьогоднішній демонстрації. Сьогодні 1222-й день з дня початку повномасштабного вторгнення. Як завжди, ми будемо розпочинати демонстрацію виконанням державного гімну України.
Ще не вмерла України ні слава, ні воля. Ще нам, браття українці, усміхнеться доля. Згинуть наші вороженьки, як роса на сонці. Запануєм і ми, браття, у своїй сторонці. Душу й тіло ми положим за нашу свободу і покажем, що ми браття козацького роду.
Слава Україні!
Героям слава!
Слава Україні!
Героям слава!
Слава Україні!
Героям слава!
Україна!
Понад усе!
Україна!
Понад усе!
Україна!
Понад усе!
Слава нації!
Смерть ворогам!
Слава нації!
Смерть ворогам!
Слава нації!
Смерть ворогам!
Слава захисникам та захисницям України!
Слава! Слава! Слава!
Слава Збройним силам України!
Слава! Слава! Слава!
When Russia began full-scale invasion of Ukraine on 24th of February 2022, they believed that this will be over in 3 days. This is what they told to the world. This is a 3-day military operation. And this is second largest army with the help of at least Belarus at that moment, which has invaded an independent country, Ukraine. Today is 1222nd day of this 3-day military operation. And for a second largest army, this must be a huge humiliation. Now, 1222 days after they announced the 3-day operation, they are dependent on a constant help from North Korea, from Iran, from China. They use countries like Slovakia and Hungary to prevent sanctions against Russia, to prevent help to Ukraine. They use former Soviet republics to transit the forbidden electronics to forbidden goods in order to build new factories, new drones, new deadly missiles. Despite all of this, Putin says that everything goes according to the plan. So Russian plan was to lose 1 million people by now, 1 million people as casualties. Their plan was to lose as 1/3 of their strategic bomber fleet. In overall, Russia lost more than 350 airplanes. This is the numbers from Ukrainian Ministry of Defense. This is trackable numbers. Also 350 helicopters, 10,000 tanks. I think it's now 20,000 artillery pieces. Russia lost a huge military power, and they cannot rebuild it even in the 10-year time. Some of the losses is impossible to replace, and Russia doesn't have new technologies. But Putin says that was the plan all along. Now Russian economy is on the brink of a collapse. It is artificially being maintained. The Russian economy is dependent on, of course, selling of oil and gas, but it's also dependent on the military request, on the military orders. 45% of Russian budget is going for military purpose. It is hard to compete with this war machine if we think that it is safe here and it will be safe and we shouldn't do anything more. We shouldn't invest more in the defense. This was the sentiment until very recently, and gladly this is now changing. Unfortunately, this change comes approximately 3 years and 4 months later than it should have come. It was plain clear that Russia is going to invade Ukraine. It was plain clear, not to all of us, not to Ukrainians, but it was clear to the decision makers, to the presidents, with all the intelligence reports. They should have acted, but instead, even after the full-scale invasion, they hesitated. They thought about how to not provoke Russia. This was the biggest idea. They drew the red line themselves, and they didn't cross it. When Russia commits another atrocity, when Russia destroys a water dam, occupies a nuclear power station, there is no punishment for them. And then Putin believes that in the end of the war, he will not be punished. That all these bombings of kindergartens, of children hospitals, of maternity wards, all this destruction of civilian infrastructure will get him profit. That instead of getting punished, Putin believes that he will be allowed to occupy at least a part of Ukrainian territory. He dreams that he will take control of the people who live on those territory and convert these people in Russian soldiers who will be fighting with you in Lithuania, Latvia, or Estonia, maybe in Romania or Poland. We don't know where Russia will strike. But if Russia strikes one of those countries, there will no longer be an option to pay someone money, to give someone weapons in order for them to fight your war. Right now, Ukraine is defending democracy as such, as a principle. Ukraine decided to be a democratic country. Ukraine decided that it's not good to be a country like Belarus or Russia. And for this, Russia had to punish Ukraine. Ukrainians are fighting to become a democratic country. When the whole world is converting from democracy into illiberal democracy and then into totalitarian regime. What happens with the US, what happens with many other countries is a symbol of the new world. A new world where liberal democracy is not valued. And you who lived all your life in the liberal democratic country, you who enjoy the liberties in Norway, you cannot imagine that this is not something that is a default state of mind. This is not something that is the balance, a natural balance. Your democracy will be tested on these elections and then in the following years, just like democracies in all the European countries. What happens in Poland is that, for example, the candidates to presidents in Poland have been running on a platform of anti-Ukrainian sentiments. They, for at least a decade, they are sowing the seeds of nationalism in the minds of Polish people, and then it becomes a huge problem, because once the seed is there, then the next political party is just willing to exploit this seed and to get more votes. So candidates in Polish presidents have been competing on who is more anti-Ukrainian. And now Polish nationalism is on the rise. They are destroying for example, destroying the sites where Ukrainians have been killed. At the same time, they blame Ukraine into not recognizing into running nationalistic idea. There is a strong wind and we had to fix the speakers. So what Russia is doing all these days is they run a terrorist campaign against Ukraine in many different ways. What happened during the last night is Russia has broke yet another record of the amount of drones and missiles they have sent into Ukraine. The Ukraine reported 534 air targets, meaning drones, cruise missiles, ballistic missiles all together. 534. This is a lot more than Russia sends on average, and this is approximately 80 more than the previous record from Russia. Why is this happening? Because Russia has built multiple factories. They are able to produce 1,000 missiles of certain type in a matter of months. They are able to strike Ukraine with 200 drones every day on average. Meaning, if they strike with only 50 drones for a week, they can run a huge attack, 500, 600 drones. These drones don't fly in a straight way. They try to fly around the known location of air defense systems. There has been a map of this last strike that happened during the night, and this is insane. Russia has basically attacked the whole of Ukraine, even the farmost western territory of Ukraine. And imagine this happens every night. I try to explain what people feel, but actually today I heard one very good explanation of what Russia is trying to do. Russia has used one way of torture that has shown to be very effective on the dissidents, on the people they put into jails. This type of torture is sleep deprivation. It's not just inflicting pain, it's only just a sleep deprivation. And now imagine that Russia wants to expand this torture on the whole of the territory of Ukraine. 40, maybe 35 million people in Ukraine, they have to wake up during the air alarm during the night. They have to hide in the bathroom, maybe in this cast iron bathtub, in order to protect against possible shrapnel. Maybe they hide in the corridor, but they cannot sleep when there are drones, when there are explosions all around. And now imagine that next day they have to go into schools, they have to go to work, and they have to pretend that nothing happens. Or at least they have to continue doing business, they have to earn money, they have to work in order to continue running the economy. And imagine that this happens almost every day. This is a sleep deprivation. This is a huge torture that Russia applies to the whole country. This is their goal. When Ukraine is attacking Russian military targets, they destroyed 4 airplanes in addition to this great, amazing strike. Just 2 days ago, Ukraine has destroyed 4 Russian bombers of the 4th generation, each worth tens of millions of dollars. Ukraine has destroyed several important targets in Crimea, the air defense system, several helicopters, and there was something else. There was secondary explosions on ammunition depot. This is the kind of targets Ukrainian targets. But Russia aims to cause sleep deprivation for the whole country. They terrorize with attacking energy facilities, and then people don't have electricity, they quickly lose phone coverage, they quickly lose ability to know what is happening in the world. They cannot call their loved ones, their family. This is what Russia does to a huge country, Ukraine. And let me remind you, Russia never told that Ukraine is their true enemy. All this time, Russia says that their true enemy is NATO, that they are fighting in Ukraine because of NATO, that they had no choice but to commit these atrocities, all because of NATO. And imagine if common Russians, these 1 million people whom Russia have lost in Ukraine, this is not just Putin, this is common Russian people who came to Ukraine, most of them voluntarily, to earn a big money. And imagine these people do it to a nation with whom they have lots of relatives, to the nation they don't really consider for their true enemy, to the nation many of them call their brothers. This is what they do to their brothers: bombing maternity wards, kindergartens, schools, children hospitals. What would these people do to the people they consider for their true enemies? NATO. This is their true enemies. This is what Russian propaganda is putting in the heads of 140 million people in Russia. And now the very same country, NATO, is telling that they are not ready to defend against the war with Russia. If Russia strikes, we are not ready. We don't have enough defenses. We need 3 to 5 years in order to prepare for this possible war. Do you think Putin is not listening to this? Do you think Russia does not understand that they have 3 to 5 years to invade, to try to attack NATO countries on the eastern side of NATO? This is the statement that we tell Putin very clearly. You have 3 to 5 years. Remember, when Russia has attacked Ukraine in 2014, which started this war, this was the moment when Ukraine was at the weakest point, when the president of Ukraine has betrayed people and fled to Russia. The head of army has betrayed Ukraine and fled to Russia. Head of security services has betrayed and fled to Russia. And then Russia put forward the plan they prepared for a long time to invade Crimea and to start invasion in the east. Just like this, Russia will strike Europe when Europe will be at the weakest point. When Russia will sense a big weakness, they will definitely strike. They will put forward the plan that is already prepared. There are multiple plans prepared in Russia on how they can strike Europe. Once they sense weakness, they will put them forward. And again, they know very well that they have 3 to 5 years. However, Russia needs one thing to happen in order for them to be able to strike. They need the war in Ukraine to be put on pause. So I believe that this year Putin will pretend that he accepts demands from Trump or from someone else, and he will try to freeze the war in Ukraine. Already in autumn, Putin has announced the military exercises on the border with NATO. They are called West or Zapad in Russian. These military exercises caused even a small panic in Lithuania, Latvia and Estonia, because many people believe that under pretext of these military exercises, Russia will actually try to invade or try to occupy some territory in those countries, that this may be beginning of the war. If by the time of these exercises there will be a ceasefire in Ukraine, this scenario becomes highly possible. If there will be no ceasefire in Ukraine, Russia will not be able to fight on the two fronts. So Putin actually needs ceasefire, but he pretends that he can get some territory in Ukraine first. And he is pushing on all the sides as much as he can. The situation is becoming critical, and again, with Russian capability to attack Ukraine with more than 500 air targets in a matter of single night, this is inflicting a huge damage to Ukrainian infrastructure. The cost of sleep deprivation of regular people is not just their psychological health. It is also impact on the economy. It is impact on business, because these people, they cannot function properly. If Russia is able to succeed with running these large-scale attacks, if we cannot, and if we don't want to stop this from happening, then Ukraine may be forced into a ceasefire that will be very unfavorable. And that will mean that Russia will only be bolstered, that Russia will get hold of the territory of people that they will put into the next war. Russia is very good at brainwashing people. Imagine, they can even brainwash Russians who live in Norway, who live in other NATO countries. These Russians believe in this Russian narrative that NATO wants to invade Russia, that it is NATO that is responsible for this war. Despite that they are living in a NATO country and they know what happens here. They know that no one in Norway wants to attack Russia. We don't need it. So is any other NATO country. But Russians try to tell that Europe, with all this LGBT, the threat of traditional family, Russia tells that pedophiles is the same as homosexuals. For them, this is the equal sign. They have a law that forbids people to say that they're homosexuals, because Russia tells that by doing this, these people are advertising and promoting LGBT idea. And Russia tells that Europe is threatening Russia with these non-traditional values. And then Russia tells to their people that this is their holy war holy mission to fight for the traditional family. Churches in Russia are blessing people to go to Ukraine and commit all these atrocities. Raping, tortures, not just of the militaries. They are torturing regular civilians, elderly people. There are multiple accounts, and this is heartbreaking to read them. And for this, all the Russian machine, the propaganda, church, government is working. They are brainwashing Russians since the schools, since kindergartens. There are parades where children are wearing the uniforms of Second World War. This is the cult of death. And you know how it is? The apex of this cult of death has been witnessed when Putin has invited the widows of people who have been killed in the war in Ukraine. They have been invited to meet Putin. And then there was a 10-minute video during which these widows have told Putin, what do you think they told him? They told him, Mr. Putin, my husband has been killed in Ukraine. And I want to wholeheartedly thank you for running this great country. They said it 40 times in a 10-minute, that they thank Putin for killing their husband, their sons, their loved ones. Imagine this. And this video has been broadcasted to the whole country. This video has told everybody in Russia that they have to be proud, they have to be thankful that they have lost people in Ukraine. They have to be proud for committing these war crimes, that this is their holy mission. And this happens to the country that they believe is not their enemy. Remember this. This is the threat to every civilized country that is bordering Russia. And countries like Estonia, Latvia, Lithuania, even Finland and Sweden, they realize this threat a lot better than Norway. These countries are borrowing money to support Ukraine better. These countries are getting deep in their pockets. People contributing, government is contributing. When Norway is earning a lot on this war, investing this money in the oil fund, and part of the rent that comes from this money, they share with Ukraine. So this is how unfair it is. And this is how Norway is a super player that is not using its potential. Some people are speculating, like this pro-Russian party which demonstrated yesterday here and tried to even steal our time. Party that is against Fred or Retfärdighet. They forgot the word against in the beginning of their party name. Party that is sponsored by Russia. So, and I lost the train of my thoughts. I'm sorry. But, yeah. The biggest, thank you. The biggest tragedy of this war, imagine that not for a single day, Russia has stopped attacking Ukraine with missiles and drones. 1,222 days of constant strikes. You would think that Easter or Christmas may be a good reason to put a pause, but not for Russia, not for Putin. Not a single day of break. They recently have announced 3-day ceasefire before the Victory Day, but they even didn't adhere to it. They continued shelling Ukraine during those 3 days. So the biggest tragedy of this war is that a lot of people have to die for the ambitions of this psychopath Putin. Wall Street Journal has announced late autumn last year that the amount of casualties in this war has surpassed 1 million people, combined from Russia and Ukraine, military and civilians. This is the most trusted number that we can refer to. By now, we believe that 400,000 people have been actually killed since the full-scale invasion of Ukraine. It is much less than, for example, Trump, who says millions have been killed. Some strange analysts in Norway are saying that thousands are dying every day. Gladly, this is not true. It cannot be true at all. But 400,000 people combined from both sides, this is under no circumstance a small amount. If you want to imagine how many people is that, imagine that this is every second person in Oslo. This is how many people Putin is sacrificing for now, and he says that he can continue these losses for as long as necessary. He will sacrifice another 400,000, another million, for his ambition to restore the great Russian Empire, to recollect those lands. And if some people are dreaming that for Russia it will be enough to occupy some part of Ukraine or maybe a whole of Ukraine, and then Russian appetite will stop, and then they will just stop this war machine, this will never happen. There is no reason for Putin to stop. He will only be bolstered. When he was occupying Chechnya, when he was occupying Georgia, he didn't face punishment. And this was an invitation to escalate, to get something more, to get something bigger. If Russia is not stopped, then the amount of casualties will increase significantly. Ukraine has been forced into the ceasefire in 2015. And then everybody told to Ukraine that this is the best thing that may happen. We have to stop the war, we have to stop people dying. The true price of the ceasefire in 2015 is this 1 million casualties, is this 400,000 lives. If instead we confronted Russia in 2015, none of this would happen. And now Ukraine is again told that you have to sign the agreement with Putin, we have to stop the war. Next time, it will be a bigger number. It will not be 400,000 deaths. It will be millions of deaths if we cannot stop Russia now. And it is so insane that we cannot learn on the mistakes committed just recently. We don't need to be professors of history to remember things that have happened just 7 years ago, 10 years ago. It's not that long. It is a tradition on our demonstrations to honor the memory of all the soldiers who have been killed in this war, among those who have been defending Ukraine, as well as the memory of all the civilians who have been murdered in this illegal and unprovoked war started by Russia in Ukraine. I ask all of us to honor them with the moment of silence. Я прошу всіх згадати хвилиною мовчання пам'ять всіх військових, хто воював за Україну та був вбитий в цій війні, та пам'ять всіх цивільних, хто загинув в неспровокованій, незаконній війні, розв'язаній Казахстаном. Дякую. Thank you. I would like to give a microphone to Masha, a Ukrainian teenager who wants to share one topic, who wants to talk about one topic, which is, she will present the topic and she will explain it. I think I will not spoil it. But So, я передаю мікрофон Маші. Вона хоче сьогодні розказати про одну тему. Я потім, чи Маша потім коротко перекладе. Я потім коротко перекладу.
Jaku, thank you. And thank you everyone for being here today. As of today, over 30,000 Ukrainian children have been illegally abducted and forcibly relocated to Russia. When a child is abducted, they are not simply moved to another country like I and many other young people have to find ourselves in a new environment. They are stripped from their family and their identity, forced into re-education camps, and adopted into new families. But that process can hardly be called adoption, as it is an illegal process within which they are forced into re-education camps where they are punished for speaking Ukrainian language or being in possession of Ukrainian books. This goes against UN Children's Rights Declaration, Article 8, which is the right to identity and nationality. Since the start of such atrocities, we have received multiple letters, video messages, and notes from children and young adults relocated into Russia, asking to be returned home as they are suffering both physically and mentally in Russia. But what else could we imagine? How do you expect these children to respond to being stripped away from their home and family, to be placed into a new, hostile one, not knowing when they might see freedom again? Just recently, in May, in an interview, a Cypriot member of the European Parliament, Fidias Panayotou, suggested that these kidnapped Ukrainian children might not want to return to Ukraine, and that we don't know how many of them are happy to be in Russia. Let that sink in for a moment. He suggested that children as young as a couple months old, torn from their homes, mothers, and families, their culture, might somehow choose to remain in Russia, a land that is not theirs. This is not just a comment. It is a dangerous fallacy, a moral abdication, and a direct insult to every child who has been illegally displaced and traumatized by this war. It is an argument built on a foundation of Russian propaganda designed to normalize an act of pure evil. The abduction and forced transfer of children are war crimes. It is a gross violation of international law and international agreements that Russia, as a signatory, is bound by. That includes the Geneva Convention agreements and multiple UN Security Council resolutions. To suggest that these children might not want to return is to erase their trauma, to dismiss the systematic efforts to brainwash and to re-educate thousands of young adults in Ukraine, and to give a free pass to the aggressor. The European Parliament is meant to be a beacon of democratic values and human rights. When an elected representative, a member of the European Parliament, expresses such a morally bankrupt view, suggesting that children abducted in a war zone might not want to return, it is a betrayal of everything that the European Parliament and we, the people who are meant to be represented by it, stand for. From my conversations with many Cypriots, I know that his views do not represent the true values and the moral compass of the Cypriot people, who understand the pain and invasion and occupation. His actions demonstrate a profound disregard for European values and international law, making him unfit to search in such a critical institution. When we talk about the abdication of children or the forced displacement of entire communities, we are talking about more than physical relocation. We are talking about a cultural genocide, the systematic destruction of people's culture, language, and national identity, which are crucial for the establishment of the future of our country. We, the people of Norway and the international community, must reject such harmful narratives and these practices. We must stand united against any attempt to legitimize Russia's horrific actions. We urge everyone here and everyone watching to speak out. Do not let such statements of horrific actions to go unchallenged. Educate yourselves and the ones around you about the true meaning of these crimes. Inform your communities, contact your representatives, and refuse to be silent in the face of injustice. These children are not political pawns. They're victims, people just like me who have a future and who hold a future for Ukraine. Norway, with its strong commitment to human rights, must continue to lead this fight. And we stand for justice. And justice will be served when all victims of illegal reallocation will be returned home, all 30,000 of them. And also, justice will be served when all of the oppressors face the International Criminal Court for the crimes that they have committed. Thank you.
Thank you, Masha. Thanks a lot. I just would like to remind that many people heard that there is an international arrest warrant for Putin. And the international arrest warrant for Putin comes from the fact that he and the child ombudsman in Russia have openly admitted that they are stealing people from Ukraine and putting them into Russian families on purpose. This is the reason why Putin will not travel to BRICS summit in Brazil, for example, because Brazil is really a signatory of the International Criminal Court memorandum of what is it, and then Putin is afraid that he will be actually kept prisoner, or that he will not be allowed to leave. But even though I don't believe that Brazil will dare to do this, but it's a great diplomatic message that shows Putin that there are countries that are not willing to let it go, let these crimes be unpunished. So when cases happen like Masha was just saying about the politicians telling that maybe this is not a big deal, maybe this is not crime at all, it's an attempt to legalize and illegal actions from Russia, from Putin. And every such attempt gives hope to Putin that he will not be punished for this crime. Every attempt to bring Russia back into international organization, every attempt to invite Russian athletes or invite Russian artists is an attempt to legalize this Russian behavior. It's an attempt to say that this is now a new normal. Bombing hospitals, raping women and children, torturing people, this is okay. We can live with this as long as we get a cheap oil in return. This is the message that many countries are sending to Russia. And this is exactly what we need to stop. Ending this war requires commitment, not just by sending weapons to Ukraine. It requires commitment on a diplomatic level. It requires commitment on the economical level. Gladly, Norway has joined sanctions from EU to ban some of the Russian shipping boats, which EU said are spying in the European waters and the Norwegian waters. It took 1 month for Norway to join these sanctions. It is not yet clear, the news came yesterday, so it is not yet clear if Norway hasn't put some exceptions, very convenient exceptions to continue doing business as usual. So it is yet to be seen. Fiskeribladet is usually a journal who is reporting on these cases, and I will be telling about this tomorrow. Hopefully they will publish an article about this. So now we have one more speaker, our good friend Erlend Jarde, who joins us every day on the demonstrations, and he prepares news for us. So I would like to give a word to Erlend Jarde now.
Takk. En dårlig nyhet til å begynne med. Russland hevder at de har okkupert den lille byen Shevchenko i Donetsk fylke øst i Ukraina. Og der finnes en av Europas største forekomster av litium. Litium er nødvendig for å lage batterier for elektriske kjøretøyer, og dermed for grønn omstilling av transportsektoren. Og dette bør være et kraftig signal til europeiske land, og særlig Norge. Norge har økonomiske muskler som ingen andre vestlige land har i form av oljefondet. Norge kunne for eksempel ha betalt for en stor andel amerikanske våpen mens Joe Biden var president, og gjort både den ukrainske hæren og særlig luftvernet i Ukraina mye sterkere enn det er nå. En rein militær seier vil være svært kostbar. Det er klart at det vil være å foretrekke at Russland kollapser økonomisk. Kollapsen er i ferd med å skje som et skip som går på isfjell i sakte film. Det kunne ha gått mye raskere hvis europeiske land og USA virkelig hadde strammet til sanksjonene. USA kommer dessverre antagelig ikke til å gjøre det, selv om et flertall på over 80 senatorer for en slik sanksjonspakke, selv om det er et flertall på over 80 senatorer for en slik sanksjonspakke. Og Donald Trump hindrer at det holdes en avstemning om dette. Så mye avhenger av Europa. Russland har sitt eget såkalte økonomiske forum, som svar på Davos Economic Forum, eller noe heter. Men der innrømte den russiske ministeren for økonomisk utvikling at Russland er på grensa til en resesjon, det er en ren løgn. Russland har hatt inflasjon på offisielt 10% det siste året. Samtidig har de hatt en sentralbankrente på 21%. Og da betyr det at man ville fått en realavkastning på 11% ved å ha pengene i banken. Det er det ingen som har fått. Vi husker at vi som har bodd i Norge en stund, husker bankkrisen i 1989, da boligprisene begynte å synke og folk ikke kunne betale lånet sitt. Da fikk ikke bankene inn det de hadde gitt i lån. Bankene i konkurs. Det vil skje i Russland, men det kan skje mye raskere hvis for eksempel Norge stenger russiske fiskebåters tilgang til havner i Nord-Norge. Russland har tjent over 5 milliarder kroner på det siden starten på fullskala krig. Putin vet at den russiske økonomien kommer til å gå veldig langt ned. Men han godtar det så lenge Russland klarer å gjenerobre store deler av Sovjetimperiet. Det er målet, å gjenerobre store deler av Sovjetimperiet, så kan de heller ha økonomiske problemer i lang tid. Så Russland må stoppes lenge før den tid. Vi vet fra historien at alle de gangene Russland har tapt en krig, så har det blitt etterfulgt av en periode med mer liberalt, friere regime i Russland, eventuelt Sovjetunionen. Takk.
Tusen takk, Erlend. We are going to finish demonstration in a couple of minutes. And I just remembered one important topic that I wanted to touch. That is basically a solution to this problem with large Russian airstrikes on Ukraine. There has been an initiative that was active for, I think, is almost a year now. And with increased Russian capacity to strike Ukrainian territory, this possibly will be the only solution that can be implemented now. The Ukrainian specialists have discussed this with multiple experts from different NATO countries, with military experts, with generals, with commanding officers, with multiple different people. And they all confirmed that this is a workable solution. This idea is that to allow NATO to cover part of Ukrainian sky on the western territory of Ukraine. It may not even require NATO troops on the ground. If NATO fighters, air fighters, fighter jets, will be located in Poland and Romania, they can patrol Ukrainian skies at the time of the large strikes on Ukrainian territory. This will allow Ukrainians to move air defense systems close to the front line, to move air defense systems close to the big cities and better protect critical infrastructure. It will require approximately 120 fighter jets and pilots to be deployed to Romania and Poland. But the biggest need is, of course, the political will. But from the other hand, what will NATO gain from this is that 120 pilots, for example, will actually have a combat experience to fight in the real war, to shoot down the real drones and real missiles from Russia. This experience may be invaluable if we are looking into possible Russian conflict with Russia. Because right now, NATO is prepared to fight a war similar to Iraq or Afghanistan. And Russian army, Russian military equipment is absolutely different. This is not Iraq and Afghanistan. Most of the NATO equipment is already ineffective against the latest Russian weapons. In this war, there have been multiple generations of military equipment developed from both sides. And although we often laugh at Russians' inability to manage this huge army, Russians are learning. They are developing new weapons. They are learning how to create countermeasures to the NATO weapons, like Javelin is almost not in use. The artillery systems provided by NATO is also not in use because Russia knows how to spoof the GPS signal. These missiles are not hitting the target. By the time when Russia will try invading Europe and NATO, Russia will have latest equipment and Europe will have absolutely no experience how to deal with it. So getting this experience now in Ukraine is the best option, is the answer. If you will have this experience, Russia will know that the chances are low that they will succeed. If NATO army will get better experience, better understanding of how Russia fights, then it's a key to your security. You have to develop weapons together with Ukraine. You have to invest in Ukrainian defense industry. Ukraine, the biggest army in Europe, is the key to stopping Russia from invading even Baltic countries. Ukraine can be a security guarantee. And if we understand it now, if and when we understand it, then we should do everything possible to support Ukraine, to arm Ukraine. And covering part of Ukraine with NATO fighter jets, covering the west side, Odessa, the important places like nuclear power stations, will allow parts of Ukrainian economy to actually continue working or resume to work in a normal way. Because now Ukrainian economy is constantly hit with these missile strikes. If this happens, Ukraine will, if we don't do actions now, Ukraine will need NATO troops on the ground by the beginning of the next year. This is the sad truth. So, thank you very much for joining us today. This will conclude our demonstration. And I would like to remind you that we are standing here every day, 5 o'clock on work days, 12 o'clock during the weekend. In a few moments, we are going to begin walking to the Embassy of Russian Fascism in Norway on Drammensveien 74. And as always, we are going to finish our demonstration with the national anthem of Ukraine. Дякую всім, хто приєднався до першої частини демонстрації. Ми зараз будемо йти до посольства кацапського тероризму в Норвегії. І, будь ласка, залишайтесь з нами, йдіть з нами. А зараз ми, як завжди, закінчимо демонстрацію виконанням державного гімну України. Слава Україні! Героям слава! Дякуємо.
У своїй сторонці душу й тіло ми положим за нашу свободу і покажем, що ми браття козацькі. Слава Україні!
Слава Україні!
Героям слава!
Слава Україні!
Героям слава!
Україна!
Понад усе!
Україна!
Понад усе!
Україна!
Понад усе!
Слава нації!
Смерть ворогам!
Слава нації!
Смерть ворогам!
Слава нації!
Смерть ворогам!
Слава захисникам та захисницям України!
Слава! Слава! Слава!
Слава Збройним силам України!
Слава! Слава! Слава!
Забула свій телефон, а я...